started. I think everybody's here that we're expecting. I'm Laura Koch. I think I know most of you, or I've seen you. So I work here in the Online Resource Center, and one of my job functions is services. And so today's presentation is going to be on our proctoring service called Remote Proctor. Well, we call it Remote Proctor, but the official name is Remote Proctor now. And has anyone used it? I know Mike has used it quite a bit, but have any of you guys used it? No? Not yet? Okay. Well, good. So hopefully you'll learn something about it, and if y'all have questions as we go, just stop me as we go. But I'm going to just start with what is Remote Proctor now? And I put the eyes on here because I put the eyes on here so that we remember it's like Big Brother is watching you. It is our test proctoring service, and what we like about it is that it's 24/7, no scheduling needed. Some of the other proctoring services we looked at before we chose this, the students actually had to schedule time, and we thought, well, with online students, that defeats the purpose. So that's one of the things we really liked about this. It does record the student's webcam and their desktop, so you get two views of what the student's doing. So you can see like what they're doing, you know, physically, and then you can also see what they're going to on their computer. So, you know, if you think they might have gone and looked something up, you can always see that in their desktop view. So we really like that. The other thing we really like about this service is that you as the instructor do not have to do a whole lot of work on this. So let's say you have a, that's a good thing, right? Let's say you have an exam that takes 90 minutes. Well, how many of you want to sit and watch 90 minutes worth of webcam video and desktop video? I would imagine not many of you want to do that. So the cool thing about this service is they have two people review it, so they have two different sets of eyes on it, and they flag it with anything that looks suspicious or that violates the rules of your exam. And you set those rules, so you know, if you're wondering, well, what are the rules, you set those up yourself. And so they flag it, and Mike can probably attest to this, they're very good about flagging everything. Like, they will flag your video. You know how, if you're like me, sometimes you talk to yourself and you're taking a test, you know?
Yeah, I had that happen one time. I had a student talking to somebody, and he was talking to himself. Yeah,
they'll flag it like they're talking to someone else in the room, you know. So they're very detailed, and they're very thorough in their reviews. And so all you have to do as the instructor, and we'll see all this in a minute, is you get a report, and it tells you if there's rules violations, if there's suspicious behavior, like if they get up and leave, and that's considered suspicious behavior, or anything like that, they flag it, and then all you have to do is go and kind of click on the parts of the video where it happened, and then you can determine if you really feel like, you know, something went on or not. So the thing about Remote Proctor is they aren't going to tell you your student has violated the academic integrity policy of your school. They're just going to tell you they might have. And then as an instructor, just like if you're in a face-to-face course, you'll determine if you really feel like they did anything wrong or not. Like the one guy, one of my favorite stories is the guy that used duct tape on his webcam, and we saw that in the film. Like he started the proctoring thing with his webcam, and then he puts duct tape over his webcam. So that was not suspicious or anything.
Can I share one?
Uh-huh.
Well, one of the directions was you're supposed to pan your laptop around the room. Well, we noticed on these two girls, they would only pan it, and they get to a certain side, they wouldn't pan it anymore. Well, we realized two sisters were enrolled in the same course, and they were sitting side by side each other, and so the proctor picked up where they were kind of whispering, and so that it looked suspicious, and then as we started figuring things out, I was like, okay, they're just sitting next to each other, helping each other.
And it's kind of funny because they forget the webcams on, like we've had, you know, well, I won't go into some of those stories, but you'd just be amazed at what you see on those. And the last thing is, you get these back within 5 business days. And I would say in some respect, that's probably where this product is a little weak, because most of the time you want to know before a week's over how they did. Now, sometimes we get them faster than that. It depends on the time of the year. So obviously, if it's the end of the semester, it's going to be the 5 business days. If it's kind of, because our online classes kind of run different times, if you catch it where it's not a real busy time, you might get it back quicker. But at any time, you can look at the video yourself. So if you have a student and, you kind of, maybe the last time they took a test, they did something that was kind of suspicious. The next time, you might just go kind of pan through it yourself and just see if you see anything. So if there's anything weak about it, that would be the one thing that I think is kind of weak. Okay, so how does it work? And I'm one of those, I don't like to reinvent the wheel if it's already been invented. So on one of these, let's think I have it over here. They have a quick video, it's a couple of minutes of how the service works. So I'm going to just show you that real quick, and then we'll talk a little more.
Designed to provide educators and learning environments with an efficient, convenient, and cost-effective self-service exam process, Remote Proctor Now from Software Secure delivers on-demand, proctored exams that enable students to test online, anytime, anywhere, with integrity. When students are ready to test, they simply click into RP Now. First, there's a self-guided system check that ensures students can complete the test free of technical issues. Next, the clean and simple interface allows students to easily select an exam and enter the information required to verify their identity. Before they begin, students are provided with exam policies on screen, so they always know exactly what's expected of them. Using the same security procedures as professional testing centers, RP Now fully authenticates each student's identity. Additionally, a room scan is conducted to demonstrate the student is starting the exam according to the rules. Once they've selected an exam and their identity has been authenticated, the student simply clicks a button to insert the password to start their test, ensuring only students using RP Now can get in the exam. During the exam, RP Now automatically records the entire exam experience. Everything is reviewed by at least 2 certified proctors, so if a student cheats, we'll catch it. After the exam, the school receives a report that includes any exam policy violations, along with links to the recorded video and audio. RP Now not only includes qualified and thorough human review, but also uses customizable proprietary technology, enabling faculty to choose what programs to restrict exam time access to, including chat programs. RP Now combines an easy-to-use interface with identity verification, proprietary lockdown security, and professional review.
Since we're not really trying to sell this to you. That gives you just kind of a look at how it works. So from the instructor side, you're going to set the exam up in their system, which I'm going to show you in just a minute, and Mike can attest it's a pretty simple thing to do. You got to set up a few things in Moodle to match what you're putting in Remote Proctor Now, and then you just kind of wait till it happens and you get a report, and kind of like you saw up there, you'll see the student's name and what they did that looked suspicious or a rules violation. You check it out in the video. I don't know, when you saw the video playing of what the instructor sees, there's little kind of call-outs inside in the bottom of the video where you can just click on that call-out and see what they did. So, overall, it's a pretty smooth process. All right, so let's look at what you as an instructor have to what your role is as far as setting these up. And I want to go from the beginning, but I can't see. Okay, so registering the exam. So there's a couple of things on registering an exam to point out. First is, let's say you teach a 6-week course, and you may only have 1 test in that 6-week course, or you might have 3. But at least a week and maybe even 2 weeks before your actual test, you'll want to set up a pre-test. And what the pre-test does is lets the student test all their equipment, make sure that everything they have on their end works, so that they don't sign into the actual test. So let's say the deadline for them to take their actual test is on Friday at 11:59 p.m. Well, we don't want to find out Friday at 11 p.m. that they don't have the right equipment. So the pretest forces the student to kind of test that out first so that they don't get ready to take their test and then they can't do it for whatever reason. Okay, so highly suggest that you don't, that's not, your test will still run just fine if you don't do that, but from our perspective, highly suggest that. The pretest, and I'll show you in a minute when we get into the setup, you don't have to have that one proctored. So there is a way in the system that you just say, no, I don't need this proctored, and they don't look at it, and they don't charge us for that. So it's free, I highly suggest you do it. Mike, maybe
I usually, like 2 weeks before the test, I'll usually send an email to the class saying, please take the practice test. It's just to check sure all your equipment works properly and will work in the system. Mm-hmm. And there's no grade point or anything. It's really an equipment check.
Just to do.
And I tell them that and says, please take it at least so many days before the test, so that if there's something wrong, we can get it taken care of.
Right, because we've had students calling here and kind of freaking out, like, I need to take this test and this won't work, and 9 times out of 10, the reason it won't work is on their side. So, like, for example, we had a guy on a farm in the middle of somewhere in Oklahoma, and he didn't have very good internet connection. And well, one of the things that's going to test is their internet connection. So if they don't have a pretty strong connection, they may have trouble. So, he had to drive into town to take it, but we were able to help him with that because he tried it ahead of time. Had he done it at 11 o'clock Friday, we couldn't give him that information.
I didn't have the password synced up right one time, and kids were trying to get on and take the practice test, and they did, but then when they went to take the final, they couldn't get into it because I had the wrong password in there.
Yeah, so things happen. So, and this kind of comes up to our next point. So when you set it up, you want your exam name to be specific enough to where your students know it's your test. So they're going to see a list of SNU's tests, and if you just have final exam, there might be 3 final exams out there, right? So we suggest you put your course name, the semester, and then what it is, like the final exam. Now, the good thing about the pretest is you can just call it pretest. Like, you can just say Google Basics 101 pretest, and you can use that over and over again. You don't have to reset that one up. Now, your actual test that you want to have monitored, every time you give it, you got to set it up in the system, because you've got to give start and stop date and time. So you got to set that up every time. There's some special characters not allowed. You can kind of look through those. Those are pretty standard when you have systems that don't allow special characters. The dash is allowed, so that's why you see it in my example. And then, as Mike was saying, how the students kind of get into using Remote Proctor now for the test is by a password. And they don't know the password. Like you saw in the video, they just click something that says insert password. And as long as what you've set up in Remote Proctor now matches what you set up in Moodle, everything flows smoothly. And as Mike said, sometimes, that doesn't always happen. You make a typo or something like that. Maybe you forget to put it in Moodle, so you put it in here and you don't put it in Moodle. Well, it won't work. So that's kind of how they get started, is by that password. So whatever you set it up as, make sure you match it in Moodle. And I'll show you in Moodle where that goes here in just a second. Okay, so it's really as simple as that. And I know this is really small because I had to get everything on here so we could kind of look at it. But this is the page you set up. So your organization's already there. Your name will probably already be there based on your ID. You name the exam here. You set up the password in Remote Proctor. So this is Remote Proctor. And so whatever you put here, you're going to match that up in Moodle. And then you give an approximate duration for your exam. They will not stop monitoring it. So let's say you set it up for 90 minutes and they need 2 hours. This is just an estimate for them. So they won't stop the proctoring process just because 90 minutes are up. They don't turn it off or anything like that. It's just an estimate. This is the question, does the exam require a proctor? This is where you would mark no for your pretest. Okay, so if we were setting up a pretest, this question would be no, because we don't need anyone to monitor that. And if I marked this as no, none of this stuff down here would show up. All right, so when you're setting up a pretest, it shouldn't ask you for start and end dates and times. So that's kind of the thing I tell people to look for. If it's a pretest, we don't need proctoring, so you won't put dates. So if it's asking you for dates, you've answered that question wrong about do we need a proctor. Okay, and then number of students, and that's approximate, because you might set this up at the beginning of your course so that you don't forget to do it. And you may have students that drop or add or whatever. That's an estimate. So if you put like 15, like I did here, and you end up with 18 students, they're still going to monitor all of them for you. Okay, and then your exam start date and end date, and you have to put those, like how long do you want this exam to be open, what time do you want it to open, and what time do you want it to close. And the one thing on the time you want to remember is it's Eastern time. So it kind of reminds you here that it's Eastern time. So you kind of got to do a little bit of, calculation there to make sure those match what you want it to say.
You can also go to Google and say, what time is it in your
Yeah, Google answers everything for us, right?
That's what I do.
Yes.
Tom just wanted to add that he does a weekly quiz, and his students can take it at any time during the week with a date that it must be completed by.
Okay. Yeah, he'd still have to set a start date though. So I don't know if that was just a comment or a question, but you'd have to still say when it opens, which I'm guessing is the beginning of the week. But
Can you get to this by what? RemoteProctor.com or something?
I'll show you.
Okay.
I'll show you. Okay, and then down here are your rules. So if you mark none, it's going to have some standard rules, like you can't leave the room, you can't talk to anybody, you can't use a sheet of paper with some notes on it. I mean, it's going to be pretty basic exam taking stuff, as if you were giving it into a classroom. However, you can also add things. So, like if you wanted to use a calculator, you can mark that. If it's okay for them to use Excel, you can mark that. And they have some basic ones here, but you can add in this box anything you want to add. And so, I don't know if you remember from the video clip we watched, but these rules come up to the student. Once they kind of verify their equipment and pick their test, all the exam rules come up. And so anything you've marked will come up, or they'll just be kind of the standard rules. And so by marking these, not only does that tell the students what they can do, it tells the people who are watching the video and flagging it what you'll allow. Okay.
So his question was, so the students can take it at any time?
Anytime during this start and end date. So, and we've had instructors who have forgotten that it's Eastern time, and then it closes before they wanted it to, or maybe it stayed open longer than it wanted to, or whatever. It's all based on what you input. So, but once it closes, because it should also close in Moodle. So, kind of, two things that have to match in Moodle are going to be your password here and these exam start and end dates. So technically, if they tried to access it in Moodle, they wouldn't be able to do it either. It would be like, it would go away. So I hope that answers Tom's question.
Can you go back in and change it?
You can go in and edit it, yes. Any exam that you are given and that you're giving under your login in Remote Proctor, you'll have a list of them. And that list stays out there forever, never
Yeah,
goes
I have
away.
a whole list of
Yeah, you
tests
like,
that I've given in the past.
right. So anytime you go back and look at them too. Okay, questions on any of that? Okay, before I take you into Moodle, let me just show you kind of to get back to Brent's question. So this is the site you'll go to, and when I have to set up IDs for you. I don't set them up unless you need one. So if you need one, just email me, and it's a real quick process to set it up. But as the instructor, this is all you do to get to where we were just looking at. So you would just come in here, and you'll have to scroll way down and find Southern Nazarene University, and hopefully my eyes will see it because it's kind of little. And then your username and password I'll give to you, and I'm going to log in as Misty. I have her permission. No, you don't. Because she doesn't really use this. I just set up an ID. My ID is the admin ID, so it looks a little different. So you'll come in here, and to get to the part where we were just at, you just go to exam registration, register exam. And there's all those fields we just looked at. Here's the yes/no field that we talked about. So if I answer no, this is all I get. If I answer yes, I get those additional questions. And then you just click register exam. It's as simple as that.
Tom has another question.
Okay.
He says, sorry.
No, that's okay.
The password is not given to the student?
No. So what'll happen is, because the next part we're going to look at Moodle, but what'll happen is once the student goes through the checks and balances with Remote Proctor and gets into Moodle for the test, it'll ask them to insert password. They just click on it, and it populates it automatically.
Okay.
Remote Proctor, that's why the passwords have to match, because Remote Proctor is going to, here's what I think it is, like the student is typing it, and then it has to match up, or it won't let them in. Okay, and so then you just register your exam, and that's it for Remote Proctor. Now, on the flip side then, once you do that in Remote Proctor, you have to go to Moodle to do the stuff in Moodle. And basically in Moodle, the things you're doing are real similar to what you did in Remote Proctor. So you got to enter your password, same one you just entered in Remote Proctor. There is a field you need to watch for in Moodle, and I have a screenshot. I'll show you this field. It's called Browser Security. It should default to none. Every once in a while, it doesn't. So you want to make sure that's none, because if it's the other one, which I think is like pop up in a new window or something, it won't work. So we went round and round with the student one time trying to figure that out, and that's what it ultimately was. And then you're going to set your open and close dates that match what you put in Remote Proctor. And so in Moodle, this is just the Moodle page. It's a quiz, so your assignment type is quiz when you're doing this. And this is the information that has to match. So open the quiz, close the quiz. Again, remember in Remote Proctor it's Eastern time, so make sure here it's Central time, so make sure those match.
Okay, now let's be very careful. You say when they have to match. So if I put 23:55 Eastern time, do I have to put 21:55 in this one?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Central
Or 22,
time.
yeah.
Or 22, yeah. 22.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then your time limit, the time limit doesn't necessarily have to match, but just to, I always say just make it the same, then you don't have to worry about it. And then where you put the password is down here where it says require password. So, and I thought I had in here, I guess I didn't grab the part. The extra restrictions, I think if you keep going down, you'll see that network security option. I think it's below here. Sorry about that. I thought I had it in here. Yes.
Tom asks, is the password my SNU password for the course, the Moodle link?
It can be whatever he wants.
You create your own password.
It's just as if you were just giving the quiz to your face-to-face face-to-face class in class, and you want to password protect it so they can't see it before you give it to them.
Okay.
So it can be whatever you want. Okay, so questions on that. So the real key is whatever you set up in Remote Proctor has to match what you set up in Moodle.
Question.
If those two match, you should be good.
When you put in the password, call it, I don't know, XYZ123,
Right.
does the student ever put that password on their side?
No.
So they will never see that password?
No, they will never see that password. And what happens is when they get to this, the point where they're trying to access the quiz, there'll be a little pop-up that says insert password. And they just click that, and it magically appears from Remote Proctor. It's really Remote Proctor inputting what was told to it into that field. Does that make sense? So that's why it's so important it matches, because if it's just one character off, or it's a cap and not lowercase, whatever, it can really mess it up.
So
Yes.
right here is your quiz created password, not your middle password. So he's asking.
Right.
Okay.
Which, I mean, it's up to you. You can put whatever password you want. It can be the same. The students are never going to see it. So it's up to you however you want to do that. All right. So questions on that? Does that all make sense? Pretty easy, right? Anyone see anything that looks like, oh, I don't know if I can do that?
This may be coming later. If it
Okay.
is, that's fine.
Uh-huh.
But if my quiz is not based out of Moodle, and my submission would be, what I would normally do would be take a screenshot out of the program where the quiz is based and submit it as part of an assignment.
Okay.
Is that possible with Remote Proctor, and how do you do that?
Yes, once they go through this quiz in Moodle, then they can really go anywhere else. They just have to kind of start. They have to start.
So I need to set up a quiz,
Yes.
and then the first, have one question on it, which is, can you do submissions on quizzes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that you can, but
Well, I guess if I have Remote Proctor, I don't necessarily need the screenshot. I could just have, what was your score on the test?
yeah, something like
As the
that.
quiz, and that's what they put in.
They can just answer that question.
Okay.
Kind of once they're in though, because we've used this for like ISA, our computer course, and of course those tests are go to Word and create a, so they just kind of have to start here and then go wherever they want.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Those are great questions. Okay. So then what happens once it's all done? Okay. So your students have taken their test. And how do you know how they did? Well, this is that report we talked about that we will get in 5 business days. That's the kind of the maximum number of days. Hopefully a little sooner than that, but 5 business days is what they promise. And so you'll get an email from me. So they email me all the reports because I don't know why they can't email them to you, but I've asked. So they email them to me. You'll get an email from me, and I'll just say, here are your results, and then you look at them. And so you'll see, like on this one, there were 7 people that took this exam. None of them were suspicious. There were 3 people that had rules violations and 4 that were clean. So those 4 that were clean, you don't have to even worry about. They're saying everything was good, no problem there. The ones that have the rules violations, you can click on this little plus sign, and you will see what they did. So these were the 3 rules violations with the names blurred out to protect the innocent. and it just gives you a heads up. So this first person, they had reference materials, someone else was in the room, and they were talking to someone else. And then here, this one looked away from the monitor twice, talking to someone else throughout the exam, and then somebody had on headsets. So that's, you might look at some of those and go, well, I don't know that that's that big of a deal. Like the headsets you probably wouldn't care about, but that's what I mean. They're going to flag everything. And then they let you as the instructor decide, is that really a violation or not? Because you can kind of tell, by some of these, like looking away from the monitor, they were probably like looking away suspiciously, like doing something that made them think, it wasn't probably just like a, or it could be. I mean, I've seen them flag stuff that I'm like, I can't believe they flagged that. But it's one of those things that's kind of like with your credit card. Sometimes I get here I have to see, we have to see your ID with your credit card. Okay. Sometimes you rather be too cautious than not cautious enough. So they're going to catch everything, and you can decide if it's a violation or not. Okay, and then your instructor view. So this is what your list would look like. This would all have your name. So I have different people's names just because it's an admin and I see everybody's. But in your own view of Remote Proctor, you can see your videos at any time. So it's listed by student. Oh wait, no, this isn't the student view. This is your exam. So you can click view and see all the student records. Or you can click summary, and the summary brings you to that report we just saw where it had like the 3 that had and the 4 that were clean. So it depends on what you want to do. If you click on this view option, then you'll see all your students. Okay, so names are blurred to protect the innocent, but so these are some of Mike's, these were one of his exams, and then if you wanted to watch any of their videos, you just click view. And you can see here, like it tells you the review status, this one was clean, and this one was suspicious, so you might want to view it, see what they did, clean, there's a rules violation, so you might view that, etc. And then one of the other reasons I wanted to show you this view is if you have more than one page, always look down here, because if you're looking, you might think that's all of them, but if you got a number 2 here, you got to go and see the rest of your people. So you don't have to ever use this part if you don't want. You can always just wait for those reports to come in, and you're going to see the same thing on those reports. But if you ever need to look at, and if you ever need to look at the video before they've reviewed them, if they haven't reviewed them, this will be kind of blank. But you can, right after the student takes the test, you can come out here, click view, and watch the whole thing yourself. So you don't necessarily have to wait for them to do theirs. Okay, so questions on that, on the instructor views?
Tom has one.
Okay.
Do you see the suspicious action or the entire test view from the beginning?
You see the entire view. So if you click view, you see the entire video. You see the webcam and the desktop. But it'll have those little call outs, and you can click on those call outs to go right to what you want to look at.
Okay.
And when you click on the call, it's one of those things, I can't really show you a live one because of students and everything, but it's one of those, if you click on the call out, it'll pop up and tell you what to look for. So then you can just watch that little bitty piece and see what they did and then move on to the next one. Okay. Okay, so then in this presentation, because I think Misty will be sharing this later, but I put the link, so the administrative site, once you get your password, that's where you go set everything up. I wanted to just show you the students, and we saw a little bit of this in the video I showed you, but I also wanted to kind of show you what the student sees. So when they go in, and in another link, I'm going to show you instructions. So we already have pre-typed out instructions. All you got to do is copy and paste them into your course, and you can make updates to make it more personal if you want, or you just leave it as is. It will give your students the link that they need to click on to get started. So, and that's where they come here. And then they just go here and they select SNU. And again, hopefully there it is. And then they have to confirm it. And then they go through this system check. And this system check is why that pre-test is so important, because it's going to check, again, their audio, their sites, to make sure they have a webcam, and their internet speed. And so all they do is they just start the system check. They start it. It's going to check for a flash player, and they have to click allow. And allow. I'm going to click allow up here for the microphone and everything. There's our webcam. And then it just kind of walks through. Now it's going to check audio. And they're just sitting here like we are. I mean, they're just letting it do the check, and then in a minute it's going to play.
Okay, all flight controllers, gonna go for landing. Retro, go, right, go, guys, go, patrol, go, Telcom, go, Shinsey, go, Ecom, go, Surgeon, go, Capcom, we're go for landing. Okay.
And then it checks their bandwidth. Well, let's see if our bandwidth has problems. And so then it processes their results, and they're good to go. And so then they would just click continue. And now our bandwidth is going to go slow. And if they're doing PC or Mac, they kind of walk them through a couple of things with that, which I'm not going to do today. And then they start by selecting their test, like we saw in the video. So that benefit of the pretest is that what we just did. Because if, like the one guy that had the bandwidth issue, he didn't pass there, so then he was contacting his instructor, what do I do? You know, so that's the thing, the good part about the pretest. Okay, and then the last link there is some resources, and this is on the online instructor resource page, which I believe everybody has access to. And if for some reason you don't, email Misty or I, and we can get you access real quick. But these, it's assignment 4.2, Remote Proctor, and this has all the information that we just talked about. There's a link here to a video that I created just to kind of walk you through, so if you forget some of this, it walks you through what we just went through today, because yeah, it might be 6 months or a year before you want to set one of these up. So remember, there's help there. There's a quick start guide for faculty, the exam policy. If we click on that, this will kind of tell you the standards, and this stuff up here, like a quiet, secure, fully lighted room, no other people. This is the kind of stuff that's going to show up on their, when they first log in and it says, here's the rules. This is what's going to show up as the stuff listed here. So you can look through that sometime if you want. And then the last thing, this is the instructions for students. So you can just copy and paste that right into your course, and it gives them the link to go to and everything they need to do. And then hopefully you don't get a lot of questions on it. One thing I do want to kind of remind you, because sometimes people forget, they do have a helpline. So kind of the first line of defense, if you get somebody in your class that says, I'm having trouble with Remote Proctor, I mean, maybe it's 6 o'clock and Misty and I aren't here, and you're like, what do I do? They have a help number. So by all means, refer them to this number for help, or there's a live chat here that they can go and chat with someone. So don't feel like you got to wait till the next day to try to get Misty or I to help you with this, because they have help right away.
And even if we are here,
sometimes we can't, if it's a bandwidth or something like that, but Remote Proctor can. And it might be like, it's 8 o'clock, they're trying to take their test, and they're kind of freaking out, and they're emailing you, what do I do? Send them there. And if there's something that they can help them with, they can help them. If it's the wrong password, like Mike was talking about, they won't be able to do anything about that. But they can email the instructor and say, hey, there's an issue with your test. So, all right, well, that's it. Do you guys have any questions, comments? Mike, what would you say your experience with Remote Proctor has been?
Been good. I mean, it's not perfect, but it gives you some ideas, so they can take it anytime. Anywhere, and I like it. Works good for online stuff.
Right.
And yet then I can, if there is something, I can go and I look at it, like you're talking about headsets. Well, the test I give, they have to analyze a video. Well, they have to listen to it, and a lot of times it's easier with headsets.
And they're used to that.
And that's always popping up usually. Somebody say they got headsets on, and well, they're listening to the video that I put on there. That's a music video. And just the little things, and then I still have the choice to say, there's nothing about that.
Right.
And
I think that's the important thing to remember. Just because they flag it doesn't mean they've done anything wrong. So if you pull up your report and you have like 10 students took the test and they all have rules violations, don't freak out too. Like, it may just be they were talking to themselves. Or they may,
I had one that said he's talking to somebody in the room. Well, he's in his dorm room and he's taking the test, and somebody walks in the dorm and says something to him.
Right.
He answered them and they left.
Right. And that's the kind of stuff they'll flag. They'll say like someone else was in the room, and you just have to kind of listen to what the conversation is. Because sometimes it is like a roommate that says, "Hey, we're going to go eat. Do you want to go?" or whatever. So, okay.
But the password is make sure it's exact. Caps, everything.
If you don't remember anything else, make sure the password is correct. Speaking from experience.
I had one time it was like a fall course like this, and course ends right at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have the test open until like the end of the week, like after Thanksgiving, because they still had assignments to do. It's funny when you're in an online course like this through a holiday.
Right.
Well, I had a student who was leaving town and was going to be not able to get to an internet anyway. So she was leaving town on Wednesday, and I didn't open the test until Friday. So I had to go in and change the open date so that she could take the test before she left.
Right. You gotta change it both places too,
Right.
so that it matches.
So she says, I got on, tried to take the test, I can't access it yet. I said, well, it's not open yet.
There's a reason for that.
So, but it's been I like it. I just, finally, this year, I did it all by myself. I didn't have to come to Laura and say, what do I need to do here? I was able
And I
to
think
enter all the
that's
stuff
big
I
thing.
need.
The big thing is just also remembering to do it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in the habit of doing it, then you kind of forget, and then it's like test week, and you're like, oh, wait, I didn't do the pre-test, I've got to set this up, and so just remember. Okay, question?
Tamara says that right now, Remote Proctor is not being used in GSM courses. I don't know why, but
Yep.
I don't know if we were ever, that was communicated to us, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there
We
is
can
a
change
charge
that.
for it. It's $15 a test. So
Okay.
that's
There's the
there
cost.
is a fee. The pre-test doesn't cost anything but the test, and that may be why GSM
Person
isn't.
per test? Per person?
Per person per
Okay.
test. And so right now, for undergraduate, the grant is covering some of that. So that is kind of to be determined how that's going to be handled post-grant. And so it's something, some of the, it may be just a fee. Like if, they have one test, I don't know how that works, but something to think about. So yeah, there is a cost, but they only charge us for what we use. That's the one thing I liked about the company too is, we don't sign some big contract that we'll use 1,000 of these. They charge as we go.
Per test or per student?
Both. Per student, per test.
$15 per.
Mm-hmm. So, if you have 5 tests in your course and you have 20 students, that would add up quickly. So. All right, any other questions?
I take it we have to have this for compliance of online things, some sort of monitoring system, so this is the solution.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a compliance thing. It definitely helps, though, with proving who your student is. It helps with that authentication, and the nice thing about Remote Proctor is also if your student's taken a test before, the next time they take a test, whether it's for your class or somebody else's, they have that student kind of captured, and they somehow match it up to where if it's a different picture or something, they'll flag that. We haven't actually had that happen before, but that is something that their system will look at.
But how many times have you caught someone who really is, you mentioned the 2 sisters, but out of 100 people, how many times have you catch someone?
Not very often. We had the one that taped his webcam. That was when we had the sisters. And there was another one, I can't remember the situation. So we've had really just maybe 3 or 4, and we've had this service since 2012.
Oh, wow, good.
So we average right now about 150 exams a year that are using it. So I would say that the instances of it are very low.
It sounds like it'd be preventative just by all the
Yeah.
stuff that
The eyes are watching.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Now, could we use this on faculty activity reports, perhaps, where they have to type it out?
Hey, I don't control that. So.
15 bucks solve one problem for the academic affairs.
There you go. Okay, well, we do have 2 gift cards to give away. Did you already
Yes,
put
I've
them?
already put them
Who are our
up.
big winners?
And we have Kirk Jackson.
It is a free drink from the new coffee shop. So.
And Mark Murray.
Do you want the selfie stick? Misty will give you that, or you want the coffee?
Oh, I don't know.
I know we better hold off on that selfie stick. That's what keeps it coming to training,
It
right?
needs to be purely spontaneous. I can't accept this selfie stick as.
Okay, well then we'll give you the coffee.
Thank you.
Anyway. All right, well that's all I have for y'all today, and so thank you for coming. Do you need to?
Yeah, we need everybody to do those.
So
And if you want to get set up, just email me.
So for ISA, when it is like they are doing the Word project, that's being remote proctored, right?
Yes.
And how is that configured? Could you
Well,
show me an example of it?
They start through the quiz and then they go to Word or whatever. And
And how does that then get submitted?
of course, now that the My IT Lab, I'm not sure.
That's true. Well, it's,
How that
I think
has
it's still
changed
doing the same thing. Just
Yeah.
doing it through my IT lab.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 6.
And then I think we still have plenty of food.
Plenty
if you
of
want
pizza
to.
and garlic knots and salad.
Take any in your bags.
Is that from Papa Angelo's?
Mhm.
Those garlic knots are really good.
Mhm. Do you want me to stop the Google? Oh, yeah.
Now, just show me where I go